if it gets to, I say if it gets to $20 trillion, there won't be much choice other than to go to a Bitcoin standard. I think we'll still have 40 cycles, but they'll be less intense because the amount of liquidity in the system. I'd be surprised if we hit gold parity this cycle. Who knows? I know my friend Samson Mao thinks definitely 1 million this cycle. The question is what happens when we really make our run, and when will that be? And it's certainly not right now.
Will the 4-year cycles go away? Will the 80% bear markets disappear?
Because I remember posting a tweet saying this is the last cycle. And the idea was that the cycles would be less extreme. And so it would look like the cycles aren't even there, just, ups and downs. I've changed my view a little bit on it. I think that you can think of the Bitcoin cycle as a superposition of the two impacts. There's a halving, which is creating a supply shock, push. So I think of this as like the bathwater, and you just push the bathwater and it sloshes. And there's in Bitcoin, sloshes are the resonance frequency. When you hit resonance, the thing slushes, and it's a 4-year cycle, and it gets a little push. You don't need much of a push. You just need enough push. That push is getting smaller and smaller. It's halving every 4 years, right? And now the inflation rate of Bitcoin has gone from the inflation rate of gold to now half of the inflation rate of gold. And so I don't know how much of that impact is going to be needed, because you don't need to push it that bathwater very hard, right? But eventually it's going to go away, and the push is going to go away, and it's going to slosh, and then eventually it's going to go away. But there's another push that's happening with Bitcoin. People possibly don't understand that one, and that is what we call the global liquidity cycle. That is, in basic terms, is the cycles in which all the nation states print money. And the bottom of this bear market was when global liquidity expanded, and most of that coming out of China, not actually the US. US started following, and then we kind of was trapped under like a consolidation of global liquidity. And then it broke to all-time highs and out running away. So a lot of money printing. And that happened like 2 to 3 months ago. Bitcoin tends to lag by 2 months of that global liquidity. But that sloshing of money being printed is also 4 years, and it's superimposed on Bitcoin in the right phase as well. So you can look at all the phases in which the money printers went on fast forward. They were also the screaming bull markets. And so I think that that kind of little push from the halving, because it's the resonance, it doesn't need to be a big push, and the global liquidity is going to be there until fiat dies. I think we'll stuck in these cycles. Maybe it doesn't draw down as much because the machine is bigger. It's holding a lot more capital than last time. But yeah, I think we'll still have 40 cycles, but they'll be less intense because the amount of liquidity in the system, like as in people wanting to buy Bitcoin even when it's coming down, is increasing also.
Where do you think we're at in the current cycle? Yeah, is it still just getting started? Are we potentially going to hit gold parity maybe even next year, or is it already in the later innings? How would you frame it?
I'd be surprised if we hit gold parity this cycle. Who knows? I know my friend Samson Mao thinks definitely 1 million this cycle. And of course, he's going around the world convincing nation states to buy this as a strategic reserve. And so maybe he sees something I don't. I haven't actually talked to him on the details of that. We haven't broken the key 100,000. We broke the all-time high, but we didn't actually. Yeah, I think of us as still in the sort of reaccumulation phase of the market. You kind of get the bottom of the bear. You do this sort of burst upwards to confirm you're out of the bear market, and then it sort of chops around sideways as people reaccumulate coins, and then eventually it's full-on bull market, and then you get the top and the first of the bear, right? These are the phases I think of. we're still in reaccumulation phase. That's without a doubt. And in that phase is anything can happen. You know, it can chop around wildly. We break all-time highs. You know, went from 70 now to almost 100 in no time flat. Consolidating underneath that by the looks. But sure, it can go past 100,000. We have our party, and then the whole thing could come back down to 70. All sorts of things can happen in the zone. Remember last cycle, it was like, whoa, we got past 10,000, everyone's feeling bullish, and then COVID hit, and we dropped down to 4 very quickly, came back to 10, spent a lot of time at 10 before it sort of coiled up enough to really make its run. So the question is, what happens when we really make our run? And when will that be? And it's certainly not right now. It's still, like, in my opinion, relatively safe to buy in this phase of the market in reaccumulation because it hasn't made its run. And I have a risk signal that we use internally for our hedge fund, but it's really measuring how much capital is flowing into the network, and then it's estimating liquidity conditions of the market. And the thing is, the risk, it measures the risk on that, right? So the risk of drawing down, and usually the signal starts to go to it's either a 0 to 1 signal. It's usually 0 or 1, and it transitions very quickly. It's still at 0, and it's been 0 pretty much the entire cycle. That's why I knew that we would break our all-time high without a doubt. But once it goes to 1, you got a few months before the thing tops, and we haven't even gone to 1 yet. So still, I think we're still warming up. And of course, as everyone who's been following this knows, it's likely going to be in the tail end of next year before we get that full-blown bull cycle. I expect the risks to then start to climb as everyone goes DGN and everything starts to explode. But for now, it's still reaccumulation. Maybe we get past 100 before Christmas, but who knows? We're consolidating by the looks right now. Early signs on chain that, so you measure this with the profit that's being sold into the market by investors. It's a signal called SOPR. That's starting to peak. When that peaks, usually that means profit taking is happening, and we usually get consolidation. So, like, profit taking happening is early signs that might be happening right now. So, time frame I'm talking about is over the next 6 weeks to next couple of months. If that starts to consolidate, whilst our risk signal is saying it's not going to come down too much, then it's a great time to sort of accumulate more under the 100,000 resistance. But yeah, the cycle is far from overheated.